O Mother Nui, stretch high above this valley. Your starry body is our glory. Then see the hawk of yonder Rahur quit, his fiery splendor, oh so mighty. He brings a light for all our weary souls. He makes the broken spirit whole.
Welcome to a new deep dive. Today we're doing an exhaustive exegesis of Chapter 1 of Aleister Crowley's The Book of the Law.
Right, the 1904 text.
Exactly. And our mission is to really decode how this cryptic text just fundamentally inverted Western esoteric philosophy, trading centuries of guilt and restriction for, well, radical joy and individualism. But to set the stage, I want you to picture walking through a dusty Cairo museum.
Yeah, and your wife, who, by the way, has zero interest in the occult, she suddenly drops into a trance. And she says, they are waiting for you.
Which is wild. So to test her, you ask her to point out who exactly is waiting, and she walks right past all the major prominent statues and just stops dead in front of this obscure wooden funeral plaque.
And the museum's exhibit number for that specific artifact, it is literally 666.
Right, which for Aleister Crowley is a glaring sign to pay attention.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it led to a 3-day dictation from an entity calling itself Aiwas. And the core metaphysical message Aiwas delivered was the announcement of this massive cosmic shift.
The end of the Eon of Osiris, right?
Exactly, a 2,000-year period defined by original sin and suffering. And it announced the birth of the Eon of Horus, which is this era defined entirely by individual sovereignty.
Yeah, and the primary speaker of Chapter 1 is Nuit, the goddess of infinite space. She introduces this really strange mathematical formula, 0 equals 2.
Which is a huge flip. Because in older mystical traditions, physical existence, like being divided from the divine, one is always framed as a tragedy, like a fall from grace.
Right, but Nuit flips that paradigm completely, saying she's divided for love's sake, for the chance of union.
Exactly. The material world was previously viewed as something you just had to endure or maybe escape. But here, division isn't a punishment at all. It exists purely to facilitate the joy of coming back together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the text actually demands that you view existence as a theater of ecstatic participation.
I like to conceptualize it for the listener as a cosmic game of hide and seek. That makes the whole 0 equals 2 equation just click for me.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, like the absolute void, the zero deliberately fractures itself into two, the observer and the observed, just so it can experience the absolute thrill of finding itself again.
Which brings us to your specific role in that cosmic theater. The text provides this highly recognizable axiom: every man and every woman is a star.
Leading into the central rule, do what thou wilt, which honestly, historically gets a really bad rap as just a free pass for hedonism.
Right, people completely misunderstand it. But looking at the source, it's actually describing a rigorous discipline. It means stripping away all your societal conditioning to discover your true will.
Like the singular, authentic purpose you incarnated for.
Precisely. The text argues that the divine spark, the Khabs, is located strictly inside your outer personality, the Ku.
So salvation is entirely internal.
Yes, you are your own ultimate authority. You aren't answering to some external savior. You're answering to the deepest, truest version of yourself.
But wait, if you and I and everyone else listening are these sovereign stars following our own individual wills, how do we avoid constantly crashing into each other?
It sounds chaotic, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a recipe for perpetual conflict.
Well, think about astrophysics. True orbits in a properly functioning system organically never intersect. The text argues that if you are genuinely aligned with your true will, the universe just supports the action.
So conflict only arises from restriction.
Exactly. You either deviate from your own orbit, or you coercively try to force someone else out of theirs.
Okay, but if this system of true will is so perfectly calibrated to keep us from crashing, where did the blueprints come from? Because Crowley himself didn't even understand the math he was writing down back in 1904.
Right, and to prove this was a praeter-human intelligence, meaning an intelligence beyond humanity, the text embedded these complex cryptographic puzzles, like a built-in signature.
Using the Hebrew mystical system of Kabbalah, where letters are also numbers, right?
Yes. The text spells out an equation Crowley just couldn't decipher at the time. It gives the numerical value for the Hebrew word for nothing, which is 61. Then it lists 3 distinct numbers, 8, 80, and 418.
And if you add those three numbers up, you get 506.
Exactly.
But writing 506 backwards gives you 605. Add that to the original 61, and you land exactly on 666, which is just wild.
It is. And the reason this matters is that it functions like a cryptographic lock. It was designed to prove the author wasn't just Crowley's subconscious.
So the entity was essentially embedding a mathematical proof of its own independent intelligence.
Right. It forced Crowley to realize years later that the text contained this flawless numerical symmetry he hadn't consciously engineered, like with the tarot correction.
Right, that Saadi is not the star thing.
Exactly, a geometric flaw in the tree of life that took him decades to realize actually perfectly restored the zodiacal symmetry.
But I have to challenge that conclusion, though. Is this genuinely divine cryptography or just, obsessive human pattern matching?
You mean confirmation bias?
Yeah. If you stare at a page of numbers long enough, and you desperately want to find 666, won't you eventually twist the math backward and forward until you find exactly what you're looking for?
Skeptics absolutely argue that. But for practitioners, the fact that these embedded canons ultimately solve subtle structural flaws in esoteric maps that Crowley wasn't even aware of, that provides objective proof of the text's authority.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it wasn't just making numbers fit, it was correcting the underlying architecture of Western mysticism.
So what this all means for you listening right now is that we are looking at a system fundamentally rejecting self-sacrifice. It empowers you to find certainty and joy in your own unique orbit.
Yeah, and it completely redefines the concept of sin. Sin is no longer breaking a moral rule dictated from above. Sin is simply the restriction of your true will.
Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over. If sin is just restriction, what invisible, self-imposed restrictions are you currently placing on your own life? Cleverly disguised as just being practical. Are you letting your stars shine, or are you still wandering around a dusty museum, ignoring the voice telling you that your true orbit is waiting for you?